I'll make it slightly more aggressive this time.
Yeah, because I can always add that on my end.
Oh, okay. I guess you have all the same stuff I do. Well, I'm also in a quieter room this time, so that'll hopefully help. Okay. Otherwise, I'm good to go.
Cool. Hello, YouTube.
YouTube, hi. Oh, wildcard preview.
All right. Check.
Check 1 2.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yep, I'm good.
All right. I will hit record, but obviously I don't have the button on my stream where it'll play the intro for YouTube. That's coming. YouTube. Otherwise, listen to the podcast. Yeah, I'll get it started. Check. All right. It is the Fifth and Goal podcast. Aaron, Josh, Johnny, as Mr. Voiceover himself said, we're all here. Listeners, it's good to be back with you. For us, it's only been a couple days since we last talked to you, but we're excited because between those couple days of not getting to talk to you, we know what the NFL playoff matchups are. So that's exciting. That's the main subject of today's episode. But as always, we've got some other dumb internet things to throw in. We've got some picks. We've got some other things going on. But first, Josh, what's up, man? I'm not even going to say how was your week. How was your last couple of days?
I learned something about myself. You want to learn? You want to hold on. I've already messed this up. This is how I'm feeling. And you want to know how I'm feeling?
Yes.
I am feeling thus. I wore a white shirt today, like a white denim jacket, because I thought it'd be cool. It's in right now. It kind of makes me look like Ken. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. I'll just be safe. White's very dangerous. I'm like, I'll just be responsible and wear this white jacket and be fine. And then I had hot chocolate as a little afternoon treat. And the littlest, tiniest bit got on my sleeve, but it's brown and hot chocolatey on a white sleeve. And I'm so sad. I don't know what to do now.
This is why I don't buy white clothes, Josh.
I
own nothing white.
I thought I matured. Because I used to not be able to do anything like that. And I thought I had grown as a person. And I have not. And it has messed with my psyche. I don't know who I am anymore.
You can't have a white shirt. There's no way I could. So
The only thing I am right now is a Mason Rudolph fan, and that's it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, at least we can all together celebrate our teams making the playoffs. I mean, honestly, some of the best. Johnny, did you see that? And I always forget this. Did you see how good the conference was this year? How good the division was statistically?
Yes, I did.
Best records in over 90 years. That makes you feel really good, doesn't it?
Bengals would have literally won the NFC South.
Yep.
It would have.
Yeah. Johnny, does that properly explain how your last couple of days have been? Have they just been sad watching all these teams celebrate the playoffs? And yeah, like you said, since 1930, we've never had a division where all four teams are above 500. And yeah, I'm sorry about that. That is rough.
Honestly, no. I mean, this was over 2 months ago when Burrow got hurt.
Yeah.
For them to go 9-8 without him, I actually think is quite remarkable. So I'm actually not really that sad about it. I was sad when Joe got hurt because that was basically the end of the year. For them to go 9-8 and honestly just have a few things go wrong against the Chiefs that cost them probably making the playoffs. Hey, still pretty good season, all things considered. So, if they have Burrow, they might have challenged the Ravens even for the division still.
Yeah.
So
I will say for the record, and I think this is a crazy stat, just to show you how the AFC North has been operating this season anyway. The Steelers are 5-1 in the division, which is, I'm not saying that's speaking to dominance in the least. It's just that, remember 5 weeks ago when I was really sad about Matt Canada? it is a crazy thought. Like, you could have told 5 weeks ago, Josh, that the Steelers are going to walk out of this okay. Not great, but okay. And that they are 2 games away from like challenging the AFC North like division title. Like, if they didn't lose to the Patriots and the Cardinals, which were stupid losses, like, this is a much different conversation. It is a weird.
You can play it the other way, Josh. They played the Bengals both times with Jake Browning. They played the Ravens not trying, and they're playing, and then it's Cleveland. So
right, and it's Cleveland, and so it's the weirdest.
So you can definitely play this the other way around.
Exactly.
As well.
This is not. Yeah, this is not. Yeah, this doesn't speak to the dominance of the Steelers this season. Clearly, just listen to any other podcast we've done. Like, this is such a crazy, weird, lovely division.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny too, because we've just Josh, because you're a Steelers fan, we've talked over the last few weeks. We brought it up like, oh, hey, the Steelers, and then we took our break, and then they won some games, and now here we are. The Pittsburgh Steelers are in the playoffs. This week we are going through all of the NFL wild card games, but before we do that, a couple things I want to just throw out there real fast, and then we'll actually move into some sports conversation. Number one is, if you are either a new listener or you are a returning listener, you might have noticed that this episode is potentially titled like episode 1, and you're probably thinking to yourself, well, gosh, didn't these guys release like 137 episodes prior to this? Why is this episode being called Season 1, Episode 1? Well, we are changing up the format a little bit of this podcast. To answer your question, yes, there have been 137 episodes of this podcast, but we are kind of reformatting the next few episodes, and by next few, probably the next 20 episodes are fitting into what we're calling Season 1. So there's a couple reasons why we are doing this. One is so when we get to picks of the week, we can actually have like a winner of picks in the week. I know we did the bit where the picks of the week were scoreboard to infinity. The problem with that is there's not a lot of stakes when we make picks. So we're trying to make it a little bit more interesting. So more on that in a little bit. The second reason is it gives us a couple weeks throughout the year where it makes sense to take a 1 week break or have a best of episode or have a special bonus episode in lieu of a normal week. Obviously, we are like 20-ish weeks away from that. So whatever, if you pay attention to our podcast schedule, that's just something for you to know. The third thing is, at the beginning of each season, what we're going to try to do is have some sort of merch release. So this year, we are doing just kind of a simple release, but we're producing stickers. So if they are not available at the time of when this episode comes out, episodes are coming out Wednesday morning, then they will be soon. So check our website, fifthandgoalsports.com/merch. So all that being said, if you're wondering why it says Season 1, yes, we are calling this Season 1, even though, yeah, we've been doing this for 3 years. So that's fun. Yeah, you also may notice that we've got our voiceover guy doing some fun stuff for us. So that's also new this season. So anyways, that's all the disclaimers. Thanks for bearing with all that. Now, let's get into the NFL playoff matchups. It was a pretty great day of NFL yesterday as we're recording. We're recording on Monday. We're sneaking into recording right before the College Football National Championship. We talked to you about that last week, so we won't re-preview that. But guys, we'll start in the AFC. I know we talked about the Steelers. They head to Buffalo because the Buffalo Bills eked out a 21-14 victory over Miami in what was the de facto AFC East championship. The Bills went to Miami, got the job done. They have won their last 5 games. After starting 6-6, looked like they were dead in the water. They open up as 10-point favorites against Josh's beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not sure that line's a total surprise considering what we talked about, some of the struggles with the Steelers. Also, TJ Watt gets injured in that Baltimore game. That's a tough blow to the Steelers. But, Josh, you said it, Mason Rudolph, 3-0 as a starter this season for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And for what it's worth, and I have no clue why and what's going on. But for what it's worth, Mason Rudolph has the same amount of starts with 110 plus pass rating, 3, that Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert have.
Yeah.
No, Josh. None of the Chiefs' struggles are on Patrick.
Oh, that's right.
None of them
Exclusively
are
Taylor.
on Patrick. It's on everyone else.
Patrick Mahomes, and thank you for reminding me that Patrick Mahomes is a perfect person who
Thank you.
always throws his passes exactly where they need to go, and has always shown a cool, restrained attitude when it comes to frustrating calls. Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, I forgot. Mason Rudolph's a jerk. Let's go back to 2021, guys. But at the same time, and this is interesting too, this is the battle of like the fired offensive coordinators, because they went 6-1, or in reality, probably more like 1 and then 6, after the Bills fired Ken Dorsey. And it took a while to figure things out, but after Matt Canada's firing with the Steelers, there has been a little bit of momentum built. And so this is really an interesting test to see which interim guy. This could be very much like job interview material. If either of the interim guys can figure out how to get a dub over this, we might be looking pretty good. That being said, it's Buffalo in January. You got that lake effect going on. It's a little,
it's going on too.
Little windy
this Sunday. That's the forecast. Or is it Saturday? Whatever day this game is being played.
Whatever day it happens to be.
Yes, that's the thing. -15 temperatures, the whole deal. I bring that up because obviously it's a big deal, but I got a note here from USA Today. The Steelers have rushed for 1,452 yards since Week 9. That's the second most in the NFL. So potential heavy dose of Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren. But if there is bad weather, like we're expecting, then maybe that's a slight advantage to the Steelers. But Johnny,
it becomes a classic Big Ten, Iowa Northwestern game.
Yeah.
HB Slam all the way through.
And speaking of HB Slam, that's basically the Bills' game plan in that second half last night. It was, Josh Allen, you are a large human being. Why don't you just smash through the line of scrimmage and get us those third down conversions when you need to? And it worked. Miami barely had the ball in that second half. When they did, they were punting. But we know how it goes with Josh Allen. We're year 5, 6, whatever year we're in with Josh Allen. You get some ridiculously good plays. You get his physicality. You get his running ability. And then you get some of the most mind-numbing turnovers you've ever seen in your life.
I feel like you get most of it within game to game, though. That's the odd thing about Josh Allen. For the most part, it almost feels like he just has a dumpster fire of a game, or the whole game he's brilliant. And obviously there will be a mistake here or there, or there will be a brilliant play here or there in those games. But if you watch that game, what should have really put a lot of people on alert was the Bills' defense, despite all of those injuries. They were fantastic last night against the Dolphins in Miami, with everything on the line, with their offense continually turning the ball over and continually shooting themselves in the foot. The defense and special teams won the Bills that game. So I don't expect Josh Allen to play that poorly again, although, Aaron, as you mentioned, he is prone to do so at times. But I would expect him to have a great showing, especially the week after a game like that in Miami, especially if TJ Watt is not able to go. I don't see the path for the Steelers to win this game unless the weather is just that inclement. But the Bills have even been able to find a run game with James Cook. Joe Brady's been doing an excellent job trying to be more balanced on offense, to where he's not asking Josh Allen to either be running the ball or throwing the ball every single down. And that should, at least in theory, limit his mistakes as well, when you're not asking him to throw it 40, 50 times. So I expect the Steelers to hang tough for a half, but there's no way they beat the Bills in this game, in my mind.
And that Buffalo defense is also really good. I think that kind of gets left out of the conversation. It's also worth noting, they said it on the broadcast last night, but Buffalo has had the same 5 offensive linemen the entire season. No injuries. They've been healthy. So there's great continuity. Insane. That's a big deal, especially come playoff time. And it's frankly a team
especially this season.
Yeah, for sure. With all the injuries. Speaking of injuries and the AFC East, the Miami Dolphins are on the wrong end of that game. Now, the irony is, if they beat Buffalo, Miami turns around and watches the game film from that game because they would play Buffalo again at home. Instead, they lose, which means the Dolphins will take a trip to Kansas City, which is also expected to have some bad weather, potentially even worse than Buffalo. So that's worth noting for a team that likes to air it out like the Dolphins do. But this is a team that's struggling down the stretch. Injuries have a lot to do with that. They've also struggled against any team with a record higher than 500. So, and you have the Tyreek Hill thing too. He's making his return to Arrowhead. There's a lot of returns, a lot of drama in these matchups. Obviously, if you are tuning into the NFL, you're well aware. I'm not breaking news to you. Also, one other note, the Kansas City Chiefs did claim the regular season meeting way back when they played in Germany by a score of 21-14. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs, we've talked about it. It's been a struggle for them. I think Patrick Mahomes would pay out of his own pocket Tyreek Hill to come back probably because the wide receivers there have been an issue. But the Chiefs do enter this game as 3.5-point favorites. They rested a lot of their starters because they had the 3 seed locked up prior to their game. I'm curious your guys' thoughts on this Chiefs-Dolphins game. It's really fun on paper because you've got 2 really high-powered offenses in theory, but there's been times, and we've really seen it with the Dolphins the last 2 weeks, where it just has not clicked.
Doesn't it come down to really who has the better defense when you have 2 high-flying offenses?
Mm-hmm.
And the Chiefs certainly have a better defense than the Dolphins. The Chiefs' defense has not gotten remotely enough credit this season. There have been so many second halves where they have allowed the offense to get back into the game by limiting the other team's offense to even score. I'm thinking of the Bengals 2 weeks ago. Bengals are up 10 at half, and all of a sudden, that Chief defensive line and pass rush is getting to Jake Browning. The Bengals can't even move the ball anymore. And even though the Chiefs offense is struggling time after time after time, the defense is providing possession after possession after possession for them to finally figure it out and get right. With Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, eventually you will figure it out enough to win those type of games. This comes down to, Aaron, you mentioned weather. Who do you trust more in bad weather, Mahomes or Tua? I do not trust Tua in bad weather. That's not like a personal insult. He's just a smaller guy. And the Dolphins like to play out in open space, lots of movement pre-snap. It's about speed more than physicality. Not that they're not a physical team. I trust the Chiefs. I mean, if it is bad weather, you're going to have Isaiah Pacheco just running the ball down your throat. And
yeah,
I mean, if it is bad weather, that might be your play in this. If you're a betting man or woman, perhaps his number of carries are getting over 100 yards because you will get a massive dose of him in this game. I'd expect that either way. I think this is tight. I think the 3.5-point spread is proper, but Chiefs will win this game. They're not losing at home in the playoffs.
And since Patrick Mahomes has been there, they just don't. He's 9-2 at Arrowhead in the postseason. He's 11-3 overall. It's interesting to note that the Kansas City Chiefs are the 3 seed because he has never played a true road playoff game in his career, which is insane. But that's going to happen assuming they win. Barring some weird upsets happening, which I don't think any of us foresee, which means congratulations, Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, the other matchup in the AFC, which is something that everyone was predicting at the beginning of the season, CJ Stroud taking on Joe Flacco. That's what that's what we were telling you week 1. We said, look out for the Texans and Browns. So the Cleveland Browns already beat the Texans, but that was when CJ Stroud was not there. He'd be a lock for the rookie of the year on the offensive side, if not for Puka Nacua, who broke basically every rookie receiving record there is. He probably still wins it anyways. But historically, rookie quarterbacks, it's been a struggle in the postseason. Brock Purdy is the only rookie quarterback to win a playoff game in the last 6 years. Guys, does CJ Stroud become that second quarterback to do so, or are the Browns and their defense and Joe Flacco gonna take care of business?
I think I'm chalking this one up, as sad as it makes me to see CJ Stroud get kicked out. I'm taking Browns on this one because specifically the eliteness and the experience of Joe Flacco. He has experience. He has been here before. And in fact, has a Super Bowl ring. Like, there is a level of, I don't know, there's something about that been there before. Like, in the moment when pressures get high, when there's just more things he knows what to do with versus CJ Stroud. Now, record helps. What is he? 5-0 as a starter in the wild card, 10-5 overall in the postseason. Like, those are just stats. Like, he can always become 10-6 tomorrow, for all we know. But or not tomorrow. Whenever you listen to this, and he is tomorrow. Or we don't know. And he has or hasn't played. I don't know.
Yeah,
listen to this whenever you want.
Yeah.
Listen to our preview after all the games have completed, and just make fun of us.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
But because I believe it's only Purdy who's been the exclusive rookie to win in the past few years in the playoffs, I think right now I'm going to let statistics play out, and I'll take Flacco and the Browns.
Yep.
Yeah, I expect the Browns to win. Myles Garrett, pass rush. They're going to get to CJ Stroud. The Texans are a wonderful story.
Mm-hmm.
They could not have nailed year one with DeMeco Ryans, CJ Stroud any more than they did. I mean, you even nailed your pass rusher and Will Anderson Jr. He's a team captain along with CJ Stroud.
Yep.
2 rookies being captains is wild. Tank Dell, 2nd round pick wide receiver out of Houston. I mean, they couldn't have had a better first year in the with their core that they now have. So if you're the Texans, anything else is icing on the cake for sure. I think they hang around with the Browns just because the Browns don't run away really from anyone. In this situation, I expect the lines of scrimmage to just be critical. Joe Flacco, Josh, you mentioned his experience. He is the wrong mixture of experienced and has nothing to lose at all for opponents in the postseason.
Yeah.
Like, Joe Flacco has there's zero to lose for him. He was literally just mowing his grass, sitting on the couch 2 months ago.
He was chilling in August, just like
right. So there's just no pressure on him at all. Yet he still brings all of that experience. I think that catches up to the Browns eventually, but not in round one against an inexperienced Texans team. That's just a bunch of kids. So great season for the Texans, though. Like, compared to any other team that we just mentioned, losing in round one. Pittsburgh, it's slightly disappointing. Miami, that's disappointing for sure. Texans losing, I don't think you even really have a right to be disappointed. The season's been that good. It's been so great.
It's funny, too, because I'm thinking about the Texans, and I'm even thinking about the Lions. And there's kind of an old adage where a team is not made in the draft just in the single season. Oh, they kind of were this year. Like the Texans, for sure, their biggest pieces were drafted this year. Same for the Detroit Lions. We'll get to them in a minute. But it's just so fascinating because Johnny and I are sitting here 6-7 months ago and watching what the Houston Texans did in the draft. They got CJ Stroud at 2. Then they traded down, I believe, to get Will Anderson. And we're kind of just sitting there looking at each other like, okay, good job, Houston. This is a good start. And then all of a sudden they added Tank Dell, who's unfortunately injured, out for the season. He's the top target for CJ Stroud, which is, I think, for me, the biggest reason why I'm picking the Browns. I think they're just going to have a little bit more firepower. I know the Texans did not have Stroud in that game, but what they did have was their defense that allowed Amari Cooper to post a franchise-best 265 yards of receiving. So it also comes down to defense. And while Houston, as you guys have said, they've added some nice pieces. I'm not trying to write them off. Obviously, the three of us are unanimous. So again, congrats, Houston. But I'm with you guys. I think Cleveland does eke out a close victory on the road. So to the NFC we go. We talked about that call in the Dallas-Detroit game, and sure enough, it played a big role in what the seeding looks like. Now, I get it. I'm not one of those Lions fans, even though I'm repping my Lions throwback helmet design here on the t-shirt. I'm not one of those people that say, oh, well, without that call, Detroit's competing for the 1 seed. Because no, they're really not. because
No.
San Francisco's playing their starters and they beat.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm not going
And
down
they
that.
still get the host. So
Yeah. I'm not going all the way down that path. But Dallas being in the 2 seed, that is literally a direct result of that call. So they host the 7-seeded Green Bay Packers. All of a sudden, no Aaron Rodgers. Doesn't seem like it matters. They're the youngest team in the NFL, but they are rolling. They've won 3 games in a row. They clinch a playoff spot with a win over the Chicago Bears. Jordan Love is playing really well, but they play a team that's also on fire with the Dallas Cowboys. Dak is playing his best football, which surely won't mean that he has an epic collapse in the playoffs, right?
this guy puts up
Never.
incredible numbers. This means he's going to take him to the Super Bowl like he does every year, right, Cowboys fans?
Yeah.
Just for the record, let's just go ahead and say Dak finished this year, and this is rankings relative to those who have at least done 250 pass attempts. So over the season, he is 3rd overall in passing yards at 4,519. He's 1st in passing touchdowns thrown, 36. He's tied for 1st with, I don't know who, but a 69.5% completion percentage. And he finishes with a 105.9 passer rating, 2nd overall. So theoretically, this is the Cowboys game to lose, which is perfect because now we have Jordan Love and the Packers. The Packers are, I believe, 21-17 overall against the Cowboys. So history is not terribly on their side, but again, Cowboys hosting, this is nothing but their game to lose in my mind. They are hot when they need to be. They know how to put up numbers when they need to, but it's the Cowboys. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know how to call this one.
Josh, the Cowboys should win.
Oh, absolutely should.
Honestly, if this game was in Green Bay, though, I'd pick the Packers. Really, like truly, I think
Yeah.
it means that much. Dallas is a completely different team at home versus on the road. Them playing in Dallas means everything in this game because honestly, the young Packers are playing well. Unfortunately, their wide receiver core is not healthy, though. And playing on the road against a Dallas team that should be focused and ready to go because they did have to play their starters the whole way through to clinch the division. I think Dallas wins. It's probably really close and razor thin, but I expect Dallas to actually win the game. They are at home. They play well when they're at home. They should be fine. We'll see the meltdown probably in the next round.
We'll see. I mean, Dak, yeah, I was going to say, Dak Prescott, 9 interceptions for the season. Insane. Like, Darren Bland also has 9 interceptions. So,
True.
So, like, he's been playing one of the cleanest games, or one of the cleanest games this season, like of his entire career. So, again, this is the Cowboys' game to lose.
Yeah, they've been unstoppable at home. I'm with you guys. This Green Bay team's good, and they are set up well for the future. The wide receivers they've got, they are quickly gelling as a really, really good team. I will say, I like the Cowboys. I was sitting there after the Lions had won their game against Minnesota. I was rooting for Green Bay to win, and then I was rooting for the 49ers to beat the Rams because I even though the Packers are playing well, I think I'd still rather the Lions play the Packers than they do the Rams. But no such luck. We have the Matt Stafford, Jared Goff reunion, all of the drama. We get the Sunday night primetime game. So that's fun. It's the first playoff game at Ford Field. The Lions have not had a playoff win since 1990. And wow, what an environment that's going to be. Tickets are going for a minimum of $600 if you want to get in the door at Ford Field.
Fair.
It's more than double most other venues. So this place is going to be, the environment is going to be unbelievable. It's going to be insane. And not unlike it was for the Thanksgiving game. When the Green Bay Packers came in, the Lions didn't win that game. So I'm not sitting here telling you that, oh yeah, the environment's going to be great. The Lions are pumped up. They're surely going to win, because I don't think so. Also, that defense, and especially the secondary, again, coming from a Lions fan, scares me to death. In the last 2 weeks, what did we do? Jordan Addison, well, not Jordan Addison, although he did have a long touchdown. Jefferson with a trillion yards. The week before that, CD Lamb had like 300 yards in the first quarter. And we know the Rams have weapons. They've got Cooper Kupp. They've got Puka Nacua. I think the difference in this game for the Lions is going to be finding just enough stops, but it's going to be, can they run the ball? I know they're a high-powered offense. They are explosive. They've got great weapons of their own. But to me, it's going to come down to, can the Lions control the time of possession and keep Matt Stafford and that offense off the field? Can they run the ball against the likes of Aaron Donald with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs? I'm going to say the Lions win this game, partially because it would tear my heart in two if I picked otherwise. But I'm curious, as more neutral fans, what your guys' perspective of this Lions team is, the Lions team finishing third in the NFC.
I'm going to deflect for a second and ask you, Aaron. Would you prefer to play the Packers instead? Like, say, let's just play play the hypothetical game. Yeah,
I would.
Yeah, this is,
but only minimally. I'm not sitting here like, oh no, we're playing the Rams. Like, we can't win. I don't feel that way. It is funny though. I will say, because I follow a lot of Detroit Lions Twitter, and all of several of these accounts, or at least the more vocal ones, are saying it doesn't matter if Matt Stafford played here for 12 years. We're gonna boo the heck out of him. I'm like, okay, calm down.
Oh, cool.
Calm down. Like,
hey,
yes, I want to win. I'm not saying we should play a tribute video for Matt Stafford when he walks in, but like, come on, man.
Don't roll out the red carpet, but also,
yeah, like,
it's not.
We wouldn't do this for any other quarterback. Like, whatever.
It's not like he held y'all back.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I think he was fine.
Yeah,
I think a misunderstanding about the Rams and therefore this game is everybody remembers Sean McVay and they remember Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp and they're like, oh, the veteran Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Wrong.
Mm-mm.
It is not. While the stars of the team in Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, Matt Stafford are those elder statesmen, the rest of the team around them is more Puka Nacuas. You have a lot of youth, especially on the defensive side. So while you do have those cornerstones in specific key areas, which is why they're in the playoffs, it is actually a very young team overall. So it's actually going to be a lot of youth on the field, but Jared Goff's a veteran quarterback at this point too.
Oh yeah.
So it's going to be interesting where you kind of have two teams that for most of the players, this is their first time really in a playoff experience other than the ones that I just mentioned. So it's going to be just interesting to see how those players react. And in my opinion, how does Dan Campbell react? Last time we saw him on prime time was that call, Aaron, you mentioned against the Cowboys.
Yep.
And while that call was terrible, Dan Campbell couldn't have reacted any worse and more petulant when it's a 2-point conversion from like the 8 and he says, go for it anyway again. And that could not have been any dumber to do. Was the call wrong? Yes, but you're not going to convert from the 8-yard. It's not happening. And then in the game against the Vikings this last week, he basically set up the same play for them to actually do.
Yep.
And
That was
listen,
amazing.
I love that. Just like as a fan, that's great. But that does speak a little bit to he thinks like a football player on the field still more than he does as a CEO or coach. And so I do have some concerns. Now, the one great thing about Dan Campbell with him being that like kind of insane is he's consistently insane.
Yep.
You'd rather have someone who like, that dude's crazy, but he's always crazy. He's not going to just like surprise you. He's not sane one moment and crazy the next. He's just always crazy. So that's good. But I trust Sean McVay a lot more than I do Dan Campbell in those key critical situations. Sean McVay's won a Super Bowl. He's been to another one. He has a proven track record. So that is my one concern in a close game. Will Dan Campbell have the restraint to not lose the game for his team? That is my probably biggest concern about the game for the Lions, and where I do see a decisive edge for the Rams is in coaching. And I like Dan Campbell, but it's not a great matchup in that sense. And there's going to be almost too much energy at Ford Field.
Right.
which will feed into that. So that's my one concern is they're almost going to be too amped up, and Dan Campbell's just going to feed that. He's not a calming presence.
No, he's not.
So we'll see how that goes.
How can you be when you're drinking 2 Ventis with double shot espresso, whatever? I mean, Josh, you worked at Starbucks. Did anyone order that in the morning? Would they just swing by and grab that?
I had people order 11 shots in their drinks.
Oh gosh.
So I am numb. I was at the point where even myself.
Don't do that, kids.
Oh, don't do that. Okay. So as a joke, and this is probably what I should be following. I will be following this.
Is it the charged lemonades, Josh?
Yeah, it's the death lemonade, the lemonade that kills you. So some friends and I are going to go and have that lemonade tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
But I'm actually off caffeine. I used to do a triple shot of espresso and a grande 16-ounce cold brew every time I was on shift, which is way more than anybody should ever have caffeine-wise. And so Dan Campbell should be dead, but like many other Americans who drink that same type of caffeine, he is not.
We're too stubborn to die from that.
No, listen, if I died from caffeine intake, I would be so embarrassed.
Yeah.
It's the stupidest way to go. If you have died of caffeine, my condolences. But also, you're not listening, so.
True. Yeah. Well.
1 cup a day. Just do 1 cup a day. Work out a little bit.
Yeah.
Get your energy somewhere else.
Yeah. One last game to go over, and then we can jump. Speaking of what we're following, we can jump into that because I've got some dumb things I found on the internet. Tampa Bay, they win the NFC South, or I guess another way of looking at this is they were the least worst option in the NFC South. It's their third
9-0.
Yeah, I mean, it was bad. Third straight division win, I should say, for the Bucs. They are taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, who have done something that hasn't been done in this century. They are the first team to, and this is per USA Today, nice little tidbit from them, they are the first team to lose 5 of their last 6 games and still make the playoffs. The last team that did that was the 1999 Miami Dolphins. Yes, Dan Marino was the quarterback then, and what did the Dolphins do in that postseason? They lost 62-7. So I don't think the Eagles are going to lose 62-7 to the Bucs, but they're only 3-point favorites. They are on the road. They've got some injury concerns. A.J. Brown goes down with an injury in that embarrassment against the Giants. His status is unknown. We're still waiting to hear back what that is. It didn't look good on the field. Speaking of not looking good, Jalen Hurts had he was flashing the middle finger at everybody, but not because he was outraged, because his finger was dislocated. So that was gross. So that's happening. There's other injuries. But man, what a fall from grace that we've seen from the Eagles, and probably no better team to play in their case than the Buccaneers. They kind of lucked out as far as seeding, you'd argue, even though they're on the road. But I don't know what to make of this team. I do think Philadelphia makes it past Tampa Bay. No offense, Baker Mayfield, who's seemingly played himself into a pretty nice contract, but this has gotten bad in a hurry, and it's pretty surprising.
I will say, and this is one of the weirdest little tidbits. Overall, not just for the game, because I don't know what the game line is, but since we've talked about betting on this show, Vegas likes the Bucs long term. Better than they should at the very least. And it's finishing 5-1 in their last 6 games for some reason has made Vegas very favorable towards the Bucs, and I don't know why. But yeah, a good job, a 9-0 victory over the Panthers. That's
gross.
Yeah, it's gross.
College fun, NFL terrible.
Like gross.
Oh, I'd be wearing my punts shirt. Like,
yeah, not for the NFL though.
Oh gosh, I just spent $200.
It was awful.
Plus parking to watch the
there was a fumble out of the end zone by the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
It was just all kinds of gross.
I'm not going to watch $1 billion of talent on the field for a few
goals. I'm going with the Buccaneers in this game.
You going to take Bucs?
Are you really?
I'm taking the Buccaneers in this game. The Eagles are just absolutely wounded.
Mm-hmm.
Even like them talking after the press conference was kind of demoralizing. even for Jason Kelsey, their center talking.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They were acting like they didn't even make the playoffs, which I understand. If you're an Eagles fan, like, and a player, your expectation was the division, not
Mhm.
like at the beginning of the season, a month ago,
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, to still win the division, find a way. They had a brutal piece of scheduling work done to them. Like, it was awful what they had to go through. But unfortunately, they have not rebounded. I don't know if they've psychologically rebounded. Forget about the physically rebounded. There's so many injuries on this team. I'm really worried about who will actually be on the field. So I'm going with the Buccaneers. They're home. They have a good defense. I think the Eagles will struggle to score again. And I think the Buccaneers will do just enough. Just enough. This was probably a field goal to end the game type of thing. I literally think Baker and Tampa wins this game. You know, we're picking chalk also this whole time. Technically, this is a chalk pick.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to win, though, one of these upsets. I'm going with the Buccaneers. I think they beat the Eagles. I don't think they do anything after that, but I think they do beat the Eagles.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. We're picking too many favorites, which is about what we do, and we get it wrong. Speaking of that, voiceover guy. All right, it is time for picks of the week. As I explained earlier, season 1, we're doing it a little differently. So our scoreboard reads myself with 0 points, Josh with 0, and Johnny with 0. We're resetting at the end of every season, and I'm going to say there's going to be a prize for the winner, but we actually, as a podcast, have not collectively talked about what that might look like, or conversely, a punishment for the loser. Now, we did talk off air last week because, Johnny, you pointed out last week that if someone sees you in a shirt and tie outside of like a wedding or a funeral, we should be concerned for your well-being. So a punishment
maybe
for
even
you
at those
could be
occasions
that you have to wear a shirt and tie. But then this whole thing devolved into a conversation where you were going to wear a clip-on tie with a polo shirt, which then just turned into a punishment for Josh having to look at you wearing that. So that's where we're at. I don't know if we made it. Made any progress other than that.
We could leave it up to the listeners. Give us some ideas.
What we ended up
Give us
with
some
was I
ideas.
want Johnny clip-on tie on a polo, but the collar up.
Oh, gross.
And Johnny, I want you to at least go to one restaurant like that.
No.
I'll buy your meal that night.
Chili's.
You get to go to Chili's.
Don't you talk bad about Chili's.
I'm not.
No.
That was I'm trying to help
they're
you
very
out
open
here.
and welcoming, and
Yeah.
they wouldn't blink an eye.
Yeah.
There'd be no judgment at Chili's. Chili's is the best.
That's why I said it.
Go
I
get
wasn't
yourself some like honey
being
barbecue
condescending
wings.
of Chili's.
And yeah,
I'd wear an actual tie for Chili's.
I respect that.
as you should.
Yeah. Which that does remind me, when we were in college, it was when the Browns had their imperfect season, if you will, where they went 0-16. And then
Amazing.
we
Oh, dude.
collectively, as the boys, meaning the three of us and then all of our roommates and friends, we waited until the Browns finally won a game, and then we dressed up in shirts and ties and went to, was it Texas?
Texas Roadhouse?
Texas Roadhouse, man.
Yeah, Longhorn. Yeah,
Whatever
something
was
like
the
that.
closest fancy by college standards.
Yeah. So that
Actually,
was
not that
was
I'm
a
still
beautiful
poor
time.
by my standards today. Still,
Yeah, same. Yeah. So maybe we do that. I don't know. But yeah, Johnny, you're right. Listeners, if you have ideas for what either the prize should be or the punishment, we'll probably do one or the other. Maybe both. I don't know. Whatever. Let us know. Hit us up on Twitter. We're at Fifth Goal Sports, or you can DM us on Instagram, any of those things. By the way, speaking of Instagram, we put out a poll, or actually it was a bracket really, of the best college football helmets of 2023 that debuted in this year. And the winner is the Navy Midshipman, their hand-painted submarine helmets they wore against Army. A pretty good choice. Johnny, he's shaking his head because our beloved Big Red, Western Kentucky, didn't win. I'm just happy they made the Final Four. Johnny, I'm with you. I just know...
Disappointed in all of you.
I know. But I also know that we have a special love in our hearts for that team, and not everyone else does. But thank you for voting in that, though. That's really what I'm trying to say. And if you don't follow us on Instagram, you should, because we do fun stuff like that every so often. So anyways, that was a long-winded way of saying the scoreboard's blank. Here are our picks of the week. This week, we are predicting our Super Bowl predictions. So if you're new to the show, this is kind of the format. This is how it goes. We earn a point if we correctly predict a team to just reach the Super Bowl. If that team wins the Super Bowl, you get an additional point. So in theory, a perfect prediction where you pick both teams that make it and the team that wins, you could get up to 3 points. Obviously, that won't be decided until like February. So it does mean that next week our scoreboard will still be zeros. But anyways, guys, I have the 49ers defeating the Buffalo Bills. I just can't get around picking against the 49ers. That team is just really solid. They've got so many weapons. You could say what you want about Brock Purdy. No, he's not an MVP candidate, but he is just kind of the perfect candidate at quarterback for what they need him to do. He's executing really well. He had that nice long playoff run last year until he got injured. So I think this team is set up for success. I do think the Buffalo Bills make the Super Bowl, though. I've got them over the Baltimore Ravens. It does, in my situation, require the Bills to beat the Kansas City Chiefs at home, then head to Baltimore and beat the Ravens. And that's a tall task, because last week I was boasting about how good the Ravens are, and it's true. But I can't pick the 1 seed versus 1 seed. I just know that's not going to happen. So I went for the Buffalo Bills. They're playing really well right now. And Josh Allen, for all of his faults and all the turnovers, he is still brilliant at times, and he's had playoff success, at least more so than Lamar Jackson to this point, only barely. But the Bills have had some playoff experience, and he's gone toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes and come up just shy. So I think the Bills will find a way to get it done. That defense will play well enough. They can contain the likes of Mahomes. They can contain the likes of Jackson well enough. They're not going to stop them, because no one will. But that's what I'm going 49ers over the Bills. It's kind of more of a vibes pick, but that's what I'm going with.
I'm going vibes too, and I think I'm still riding on the Mavs being pretty good and the Rangers taking the World Series. I am Dallas all the way through.
Wow.
Give me the boys.
Wow. I
Give
like
me the
it.
boys over
Gosh,
the Ravens.
no, don't do that to yourself. Don't do that.
I'm
Don't
taking
do
for
that to
vibes.
yourself.
Yeah. I'm having a good time.
No.
I don't listen. I have
I'm
no
sorry,
emotional
Josh.
weight.
No, you know what? I
If they
won't
both
feel
lose-
sorry for you.
If they lose,
because
if they
you've
both
fallen
lose-
for it.
If they both lose in the first round, it's fine. See, this is the thing between you and me, Johnny. These picks, I'll just pick another stupid thing next week, and it's not going to affect me anyway.
True.
I have an endless supply of stupid, inane picks, and
so do
the
I.
one this week, give me Prescott and the boys over the Ravens. Whatever I said, the Rams. will make-
Them too.
them too.
Hmm.
They're gonna switch to Detroit real quick.
Yeah,
take the
yeah.
Rams and then go in.
Aaron stole my pick. I wanted to
him.
pick the 49ers and Bills, but
You got to get in first.
Yeah.
yeah,
Gotta get
Hey,
rid of the
also,
Google Doc,
you know what you
Johnny.
can do, Johnny? You know what you can do, Johnny? Don't pick other people.
which is what I'm doing. So
Yeah,
I'm picking
pick the Steelers.
Baltimore, even though I'm not an idiot. I'm
I
picking
thought about
I'm
thought
going to
about it.
pick the Ravens, and I'm going to have them beating the 49ers. And I know, you're probably thinking last time they played, the Ravens destroyed them. The first time Lamar Jackson plays any NFC team, he always does that to people. So don't actually read too much into that. Still, I think it'd be really great Super Bowl. One of the teams would be overcoming kind of and getting over the hurdle. I know John Harbaugh's won a Super Bowl, but as far as the quarterback goes, Lamar Jackson, and then on the 49ers side, yes, Brock Purdy, but almost Mike Shanahan, like more so than anything else. So I think it'd be a good matchup. It would be a rematch of, I don't even remember how long ago that was when it was Joe Flacco against Colin Kaepernick in that Super Bowl with the Harbaugh brothers facing each
man.
other.
What a time.
That might be like 10 years ago or something at this point. I don't even know.
Yeah.
But that's my Super Bowl. I have Baltimore winning the Super Bowl in that scenario. Gosh, I hope not. I'm cheering for Buffalo to win the whole dang thing, or the Texans. But I'm realistic, so Buffalo.
You're not rooting for the Lions to win the whole thing?
No, Aaron, I'm sorry. I'm not.
Oh, devastated.
I'm a Buckeye through and through. Go Stroud.
Yeah, I get that. I'm with you on the AFC side. All right, so that's our picks of the week. Obviously, we're going to be updating this every week and talking about our picks. And some of them may be eliminated right away, so that'll be fun. Next week we'll have something picked that we can actually get points for right away. Although technically, did we actually picked the college football championship last week, right? And it's been like 3 days ago, and I'm already forgetting. That shows you where my memory's at.
We already picked it.
Okay, so we picked it. So do we count that in the season 1 scoreboard? I think we do.
Did we all pick the same? No, Josh picked Washington. Yeah, I say we count it.
All right, we count it. Arbitrary and capricious. It's been decided.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and this is where I'll put what we're following voiceover. Do we care what order we go in?
Can I go last?
Yeah.
Because I need to dig up one from the annals.
Okay, I can go first, and then I'll swing it over to Johnny. Or Johnny, do you have yours ready?
Go ahead.
Okay,
I'm pulling it up.
all right, sounds good. Yeah, I found something dumb on the internet. So we talked about the Minnesota state flag last week. Kind of disappointing. Overall, there was a lot of great potential. Look, the flag is nice if it's a flag for a country. It is not. It is a flag for a state. Anyways, so Minnesota, we talked about it last week. Thought I was done thinking about the state of Minnesota, other than the fact that the Lions play them on Sunday in the season finale. Just thought, you know what? Cool. Minnesota, good. I'll think about you the next time. I don't know. Ohio State plays them in basketball, whatever. No. Minnesota, look, we don't have state rankings on this podcast, but the actions of Minnesota this week have made me think maybe we do need state rankings. Obviously, Ohio is number 1. That just goes without saying. Ohio gets the world. Everything's Ohio. Always has been. I don't know what's the worst state. What would be number 50?
Delaware. It's unnecessary. Just be Maryland, man.
Yeah.
You're not even the whole peninsula.
Right.
Florida is 49.
All right. Cool.
Wait,
Delaware,
why
we're
Florida?
convinced.
Florida is not. I mean, I wouldn't call Florida top 10, but like you get so much fun from them.
That's true.
I mean,
Josh.
I enjoyed. I was just in Florida, and I enjoyed my time there.
Yes.
That's an optimistic way of looking at what transpires in Florida at times.
Yes.
You enjoy the entertainment value of Florida.
I'm not saying that like I dream of, going to Jacksonville.
Right.
Like, oh man, I'm going to save up and vacation in the Panhandle. Like, I'm not,
Right.
But there's some good stuff. There's great Spanish architecture down there. There's like some decent history if you know where to look for it. Like, yeah, you don't have to go to Orlando or Miami. You got some fun stuff down there.
I don't like Alabama all that much, mostly because of their football team, but I would submit them as a bottom 5 state.
But see, even then, and this is why but even Alabama has Mobile, which is the oldest, one of the oldest established cities in the States.
One thing does not save a state from these rankings.
And
Minnesota
has
10,000 lakes.
Stuff is.
They have 10,000 lakes. That's not saving them from our wrath.
No, they don't. But see, that's
off.
different. Minnesota's different because they don't call it duck, duck, goose. They call it duck, duck, gray duck.
Yes,
that's different.
Okay, and this is exactly where I'm going. And this isn't me making something up to have a bit on a podcast so I can yell about Minnesota. No, this is the Best of Minnesota Twitter account. Posted a picture of a U.S. map with all 50 states. And 49 of those states call the game Duck, Duck, Goose. They call it Duck, Duck, Goose. Minnesota apparently calls it Duck, Duck, Gray Duck. Stupid. Straight to jail. Why? That's... the replies on Twitter killed me because they're all like, this is psychopath behavior, like all this stuff. And Twitter's absolutely right.
Wow. Save that sentence, Aaron. Twitter is absolutely right.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it very often.
Say that?
Rarely, but it applies here. So, okay, kind of dumb why Minnesota would call a game that everyone in every other state calls Duck, Duck, Goose. whatever. But couple that with the state flag, and also couple it with Brazil, Minnesota Timberwolves Twitter. This is when Twitter is the opposite of right, and it's just incredibly, painfully, scarily wrong. We joke on this show, oh, don't look up this thing on Twitter, almost kind of like a bit, like, yeah, you should, it's funny. No, I'm being serious. Do not look up Brazil, Minnesota Timberwolves Twitter, because there's just these appalling videos of very uncomfortable, like AI generated videos of a Timberwolf swallowing a leopard for no apparent reason. Like it's really bad. But ironically, even though this account exists, it exists in part because it tweets out these horrible videos when they win, but the Timberwolves are actually really good this year. They're like one of the best teams in the West in the NBA. We'll see that last. Obviously, we're not even halfway through the NBA season yet. But it's a combination of all three. It's the state flag, it's Duck, Duck, Gray Duck, and Brazil, Minnesota Timberwolves Twitter that just has me thinking that Minnesota is probably further down on the state ranking list, like maybe bottom 10. Like that's how much I'm offended by all of these things.
Yeah, Minnesota. I don't know if Minnesota's last still, but they definitely dropped in the rankings. I thought that they were probably above average in the rankings.
I would have said so prior to last week.
Maybe top 20, top 20 state perhaps even, but not now. No way. I haven't really been following one thing in particular this week. So there's just a few random things that have grabbed my attention. First off, you guys remember the edible Pop-Tart from a few weeks ago, which was incredible. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. Best thing I've ever seen. We do have a problem now circulating, though, within the college football world and spaces, and that is a theory now that mascots, not only of the Pop-Tart variety, but of all varieties, are and always have been edible. So one of the mascots, maybe one of my favorite mascots, he only comes out once a year, is Perry the Pylon. And if you don't follow football very closely, you know, Pylon is one of those orange rectangular prisms on the corner of the end zones. They have cameras in them many times. They're great. They are very helpful for the referees. Well, Perry the Pylon is a mascot that's literally just an orange cylinder pylon. Well, he has been getting threatened all week by fans that they will attempt to eat him, much like the Pop-Tart mascot. So while I'm curious in one sense, no, guys, a pylon is not edible. Most mascots are not. That was just the Pop-Tarts one. Please leave Perry alone. He's just doing his job. The other thing I'm following is Jon Rothstein. And if you follow college basketball, you know this man. And you probably haven't even jumped into college basketball a whole lot yet, as we haven't. And I assume that you guys just follow our tastes and what we decide to talk about. And nothing
else. You have no
else.
Individual thoughts of your own.
No, completely, herd mentality here. Well, he is one of the best follows on Twitter. If you do follow college basketball and you want to know what's up, he's great about it. Well, everybody keeps asking him like, oh, John, like, well, he only watches college basketball. You're going to watch the game tonight though, right? And they're like, and he's like, which game? Michigan's not playing again until Friday, or Washington's not playing again until Thursday when they play Arizona State. And it's a bit of a bit. At the same time, I think this man is so pigeonholed and has built a fortress around himself in college basketball. He truly has no idea that a college football national championship game is going on Monday night. So kudos to Jon Rothstein. We sleep in May, my friend. We sleep in May.
Yes, we do. And for those of you that are waiting on us to cover college basketball, I'll tell you that's coming soon. It is true. We are trying to wrap our mind around it out of college football season and the NFL and everything else. Like it's just the way it is. It's just the way the sports calendar is. I will say Dayton, which is very close to Johnny and I, they got snubbed out of the top 25 of the AP polls, straight to jail. AP poll voters for the 1,000th time for not watching college basketball, or not watching the sport you're voting on. A tale as old as time. You're right, Johnny. John Rothstein is absolutely locked into Monmouth versus Northeastern, 7:00 Eastern time on CBS Sports Network. And if that's not good enough, then you've got Texas A&M Corpus Christi Islanders versus the Houston Christian, I can say that word, Huskies, 8 p.m. ESPN Plus.
Most sicko thing possible, and I respect the heck out of it.
Yep.
Guys, I got two things I'm following. One is more of a straight to jail, but I feel like it needs to be said. Amazon, for many reasons. We don't really need a reason, but this time it was because they ruined a few Christmas presents for my family. On Amazon now, you have to select whether or not you want certain packages shipped in a box that they provide like normal, like they've done for the past billion years of their existence, or if they just want to slap a label onto the existing box that the product is already in and ship it that way. Now, maybe I'm dumb and did not see the big press release and the big keynote that Jeff Bezos gave back in the summer that they were going to do this. But neither did my parents nor my sister see this. And so I bought my mom a nice pan because all of her pants were nasty. And so I'm like, here, have a new pan. And I'm in Texas. I'm not going to fly with a big pan. So I just shipped all the Christmas presents to my parents' house. Easy enough. I'll be there soon. After the semester, I'll wrap things there. It's easy. Amazon ships the gosh darn thing in its original packaging.
Oh, man.
And thankfully, my sister caught it ahead of time. But
get out of jail free card.
Get out of jail free. Exactly. Yep. So shout out to her. But then my sister ordered my mom a new case for her iPad. And then my dad ordered her something too. And both of those were shipped in clear containers. Like shipped with like the plastic wraps, like the clear plastic wrap over the original thing. Man. Mom went to go check the mail. They were both right there.
Ugh.
Oh,
she knew instantly. So straight to jail. Jeff, you got like $9 trillion. Put $1 trillion into just like one or two more boxes.
It's around Christmas time, man.
It's Christmas. Just automatically do it. Like I can wrap myself. I don't need it to be gift wrapped. All right. I know how to wrap.
And just to be clear, we're not trying to give more work to the overworked Amazon employees.
No,
Jeff also pay them, but
hey, also give them money. I never that's why I shipped my stuff 3 weeks in advance, no rush shipping. It'll get there when it gets there. It's fine.
A man of the people.
Could you put it in a box? It's for my mom. Thank you. Two, I want to thank the Titans for winning and allowing the Steelers to actually be in the playoff discussion. I would like to actually thank, too, Week 7 Jacksonville. Week 7 Jacksonville beat the Steelers 20-10. You remember that game. Trevor Lawrence was fine. Touchdown, interception, like 300 some yards, or 200, almost 300 yards. Trubisky was terrible, as I said he was going to be. 138 yards, 2 interceptions. But near the end of the game, after either a big run, I think it was after a big play, a few Jacksonville players stole sideline fans players' terrible towels, thus enacting the very famous and very historied curse of the terrible towel. So this is
I'll burn that towel.
Oh, please. Hey, who's in the playoffs this year? See, it works. It works every time. You thought about burning that towel, and retroactively, Joe Burrow got hurt. Like, that's how powerful this curse is. That was on you. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah.
So I just want to just to remind people, the curse is alive and well. Also, it's just a bunch of hubris because I also saw, and I could still actually, after the fact, still buy some if I wanted to. Jacksonville launched playoff ticket sales.
Yeah, they did.
Like the morning of the game, and did not take the site down until quite a few hours after the game had ended. I was still able to look through and go through the purchasing order for tickets like 2 hours after the game ended. So Jacksonville, if you're going to do this, you got to do it better.
Yeah.
No terrible towel stealing, and you wait to launch the site until it's time.
I'm sure that they just refund everyone that purchases those tickets, but
Yeah.
it would be far funnier if the tickets you just get. I don't even know. Like
What's the
instead of
next-
playoff tickets,
yeah.
you get every single home preseason game for the next 3 years instead.
Ooh.
There's
that'd be
probably
fun.
there's probably like an outdoor concert they're hosting in like May.
certainly.
You know,
Yeah.
like you get to go to that.
Yeah.
The same seat. It's not
Garth
like you get a better
Brooks.
seat. You get that same seat. Yeah.
Is Tour of America.
No.
Congratulations.
Tebow's probably speaking there in the summer. You can
Probably.
go watch
You
him.
could keep my money. I don't want those tickets.
Yeah, I'd pay them more to not go to Garth Brooks' Tour of America. Oh boy. All right. Well, we need to get out of here because for us, we are like 20 minutes away from kickoff at the National Championship College Football Playoff, all that jazz, Washington, Michigan. So we'll talk about it a little bit next week. But again, by the time next Wednesday's episode's out, that'll be over a week old. So we'll probably just be sticking with the NFL. But again, I want to thank you for listening. Our listeners are fantastic. We touched on it before we left for 2023, but now that it's 2024, looking back on the year, I just want to say thank you for all of your support, whether that's listening to the show, supporting us on social media. We threw a video out there of all the cool places that we got to cover games at this year, and that's really because of you, because without you listening and without you supporting, we wouldn't exist, and so we wouldn't be able to do those things. So just wanted to say thank you. And yeah, for myself, for Josh and Johnny, this wraps up episode 1 in huge quotation marks because it's really like episode 138. But we thank you for listening. We'll see you again next week. Have a good one.